Please welcome Microsoft MVP Shawn Dorward. Today, he will showcase premiering content, Be a Better You with Copilot for Business Central. Please stick around after Shawn's session for a live Q&A.
Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome to DynamicsCon Virtual 2024. My name is Shawn Dorward. Welcome to this Business Central session, being a better you, being a better version of you using Copilot for Business Central. I am really excited to share all these cool things about Copilot today in Business Central. We'll get into that in just a minute. A little bit about myself. I am the Vice President of Service and Delivery for our SMB business at SA Global. So I'm a consultant. I work with GP, Business Central, pretty much you name it. I do take some time and share my tips and tricks, if you will, or life hacks at lifehacks365.com, where I am recently sharing a brand new journey about being the world's okayest Shawn, is what I'm calling it. And that's about me using Copilot every single day to be a better version of me. And this session is part of that journey where we start to use Copilot in Business Central, not just in other ways where we're using AI. I'm also the managing director at RecLogic. So if you're interested in requisition for Business Central, hit me up. I'm a Microsoft MVP, which pretty much means that I have a strong passion for what I do every day. I'm appreciative of this entire community, and let's get into this content, right? QR code up there if you're interested in contacting me after this session. So our agenda, very brief, but to the point. What is Copilot? So I get this a lot. You know, people ask, they say they hear about Copilot all the time, but they really want to try to understand what it is and what it means. So we'll talk about that. I have some kind of knowledge base in here for us on some facts for Business Central Copilot. We'll talk about Business Central Copilot or Copilot for Business Central, what's inside of BC, and then some cool things outside of BC that are still using our BC stuff. We'll talk a bit about those very cool mystical things called agents, if you've heard of those, and maybe some musings or thoughts on the future for Copilot in general. Certainly, we'll have some time for Q&A at the tail end of this. Hit me up in the chat. Which way is the chat? Let's see. It's over there. It's over there. Hit me up in the chat. Let me know that you're here. Say hello. If you have questions, please kind of put them in all caps so it's easier for me to find. I'll be able to answer them at the end. Let's get right to it. So first agenda item, what is Copilot? And Copilot, first and foremost, you must understand that Copilot is simply a brand. It's the brand name of Microsoft's artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence is not what my wife describes me using. Well, she does, but that's not really what we're talking about today. Artificial intelligence is that engine that runs in the background, that significant technology that helps replicate the human intelligence into our lives. And we use AI every day in more ways than we could possibly even fathom. We don't even realize it. We're going to start using Copilot more and more every single day in our professional life, just like we do in our personal life, whether it's a digital assistant like from Amazon or Google, those kind of things. We're going to start seeing this evolution. We're already seeing it today, actually, for artificial intelligence in our work. I use it every single day. We'll talk about that more in a minute. The current Copilot tool is designed as a conversational chat, single modal. You have to enter some text to get some results. So it's not like some of the previous digital assistants from Microsoft. So one of the ones, the way back ones, the OG, if you will, Clippy, if you remember that, give a shout out to Clippy in the chat. The Clippy was text conversational as well, but it was more circumstantial and inserted into the things that we were doing. And then that kind of went away, and down the road of the future came Cortana. And Cortana was more voice interaction, and you could use that on your Windows or the smart speaker. But Copilot today, at least in this moment in time, wink, wink, is a conversational chat. So what that really means is it's keyboard interaction right now. Now, you're going to see this everywhere. By the way, if you've used ChatGPT, you might be thinking, well, that's artificial intelligence. Copilot's artificial intelligence as well. Well, the similarities are robust because Microsoft is using that Copilot engine in a kind of confined space under Microsoft system. So it's privatized that way, but it is the same kind of AI engine in the background using the LLM. You're going to see this everywhere. If you think you see it everywhere now, just wait. It's going to blend into the background. We won't even realize this is there because it's going to become part of our habits and our daily functions. But just because you see Copilots everywhere doesn't mean that they're all the same. Now, conceptually, the brand, it means that they're the same, but it doesn't mean that they do the same thing. So I want to kind of cut out some of that RIP Cortana. I saw that in the chat. It doesn't mean we don't want to get confused over what this Copilot does or that Copilot does. So let's take away some of that confusion a little bit as we go along. Just some quick stats here. I got this from Microsoft. You can fact check them if you want. 75% of people are already using AI at work. 85% of folks saying it helps them focus more, and 79% of leaders agree that we need to adopt AI to stay competitive. I would venture that number is increasing by the minute. But let's go back to the first one. 75% of people are already using AI at work. And when I first saw this, I immediately felt that can't be true. I work with businesses all over the globe, and I feel certain that they're not using AI. And then I really started to dig into it. But before I share that thought, what do you think? What is the most common thing you think people are doing at work using AI? And let's leave the fun stuff out. But what do you think people are using? How are they using it? Interesting to think about, really. If it's 75%, what are they using? Like I said, you're going to see Copilot everywhere. Today's session is diving in for Business Central, but you can see the power and the commitment that Microsoft has put into this particular space, starting first and foremost with the Microsoft 365, or the Office 365, people still call it, everywhere embedded there. I use Copilot so much for Microsoft Teams. I don't know how I could live without it, quite honestly. It is so incredible. But the Power Platform, if you're a Power Platform fanatic like I am, you know that everywhere you turn, Copilot is increasing in relevance and success along the way, making those jobs that were already low code enabled even more accessible. And then most certainly what brings us to the forefront in our operations is the Dynamics 365, and where we see that Copilot being embedded and ingrained as we go down this timeline of maturity with Copilot. So didn't get a chance to look at writing emails. I see, write some stuff they don't want to write, summarizing team meetings. I love that. Those are great use cases. Most certainly, I think hands down, where that number comes from predominantly are things like Teams. What we tend to do with artificial intelligence is, as soon as we understand it, or we kind of compartmentalize it, we give it a name and we forget that it's AI. So think of your Google Home or your Amazon, the A word, because I have one in my office here. We give it a name, and we forget that it's AI. But what people forget is all these tools have AI built in it. Right now I'm using AI to blur my background. In Teams, if you have a background that you put as your background and it does the human recognition, that's AI. That's not just accidental cutting out your silhouette. So certainly for Outlook is very, very common. Teams is the go-to in my book for now. But here's a link. You'll get this slide deck most certainly. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, thanks so much. Those comments are below. Comment below. But if you're live here, the comments are to the side. Here's some links to these facts, and we'll talk a bit about these, and I'll try to paste them in the chat before we're through here. But people are always asking, is there a minimum I need to buy with Copilot? I see this M365 Copilot license is $30 a month, I think it is. Is Copilot free for Business Central? Well, the truth is, if you have a Business Central license, Copilot today is included. Now, I don't know what it'll look like down the road, but right now it is included. So all the things we're going to see today, you have. If you have Business Central, you have. Some other good questions I get is, can I develop my own co-pilots for Business Central? The answer is absolutely. And I think there's some great ones out there in the space. How does Copilot use Azure AI? I get this a lot from my IT folks. So these links will be there for you. Really important. This is all from Microsoft. You can find that direct out there in the Docs website. So let me drop that link here real quick into the chat for everybody to take a peek-see at that. Now, before we move on, one of the other things I wanted to mention here is, how does Copilot approach AI safety? Please take a minute to look at that. There's some really cool facts here that I wanted to share as well in conjunction with the previous slide. So when a user interacts with Copilot, it uses their permissions. So if I ask for information using Copilot Business Central, can I see something I'm not supposed to see? No, the answer is no. That's built into the Copilot model. Microsoft does not read your prompts. Believe me, they probably have better things to do, and they don't use your data to train the AI models without your permission. So that's an admin thing. So if you give the permission, then it can be used to train the model. Otherwise, it's not, which is great. For customers that within the EU data boundary, data doesn't move outside the boundary. And also, last one here, and I'll put this link in here. I'll try to get this link if I can get it into this chat. But I get asked this a lot. Is Copilot available in my region? At SA Global, we're a global organization. So I work with businesses all over the globe, and as Copilot rolled out, there was some folks who didn't have this or didn't have that. That link is availability by geo, excuse me, and that's not just for Copilot for Business Central. That's for all things. So you'll be able to see by your location what came out, when it came out, or when it's planned. Hopefully that link is helpful as well. I'll be sure to get that to you. Now, within Business Central, just do a quick search in your environment for Copilot, and you'll see Copilot and AI capabilities. These are the list of features that are coming out or have come out, and what's their status in your system. So if you go back to your office, or if you're in your office and you flip over and you try to do one of these today and you don't see it, it's quite possible that they're just not active in your system yet. That's okay. There's probably good reasons that your team wants to kind of hold off on rolling things out or what have you. But if you want to tinker with this, you could just use a sandbox to give Copilot a shot. By the way, my feedback, my recommendation is that you start. Part of the World's Okay as Shawn journey is just that, committing to trying to use Copilot often, because without a doubt, this is the movement. This is the cell phone of 12 years ago. This is the internet in the late 80s. This is a time in our lives where this new technology is just starting, but it is undoubtedly going to continue to grow and thrive. And it is important, dare I say, essential that we all get acclimated to using AI in aspects of our day-to-day, not just in our inbox, not just in our collaboration through Teams, but in other ways to lower the floor of what we do, to be able to save time, to add more time to be doing those more valuable things. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So make sure you're trying these out as we go. Now, chat with Copilot. As I mentioned, Copilot is it's a conversational chat. That's how we're going to interact with this AI. It's on a sidebar on the right hand of your screen. This gives us the ability to go into the system, find data in our system, or even give us information on how to do something or explain something. So with that, we'll actually do this in demo mode here in a minute, but there are lots of different types of Copilots. And part of the reason why I bring this up is it gets confusing. I've tried this myself, so I know initially, if you don't have an understanding of what this layout looks like, it's confusing. So there's Copilot for Windows, or at least that's what I call it. That's what you have embedded in your browser or in your Windows desktop. That's that sidebar that you see on my screen. We used to call that a blade. Somebody told me they call it a sidecar now. I don't know. But that bar on the right-hand side, that if you ask that to show records for a customer, that is going to be, it's going to search out into the web. That's not the Copilot for Business Central. That's the Copilot for Windows. So that's looking at the entire environment. What we really want is this Copilot up here from within the Business Central ribbon. That's the one we want. Okay. Now, when we open that up, it gives another sidebar. So we've got the sidebar over there for Copilot for the world. And then we have Copilot here for Business Central. So real important that when you see this, that you're using the right Copilot for the right things. So if you ask the Copilot on the right there to give me records for Alpine, it'll give you something, but it won't be what you're looking for. Real important to note. Within that sidebar within Business Central, it gives us kind of this how-to. Here's the find, explain, and guide. And these are really designed to show us documents, to look up documents, to help us understand, and to how do I. So let's take a look over here in my environment. And notice I have here my Windows Copilot kind of nicely on my right-hand side. And I'm going to turn that off. I'm just going to hit the Copilot and I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to turn on my Copilot in Business Central, saving that real estate for me here. So let's do this. So we've got find, explain, guide. We can also use these view prompts to give us a little bit more information or suggestions in this process. So I can find things, I can explain things, etc. Now here I've gone and asked, show recent invoices for Alpine. And yes, I did a few of these things ahead of time because, well, that's how demoing works. We want to just make sure that we're not wasting time here. But you notice what this did in my Business Central is it gave me the recent invoices for Alpine, and I can simply click them and be taken right to the document. So that's keyboard interaction into that chat. Now, sure, I could have gone into vendors. I could have gone to posted purchase invoices, filtered, etc. But I did this. Now I can search also here, team. I can search using show me invoice 123 if that's a match. I can also search for other things very particular in that way. And note that it took me right to this window. Now, in this example here, I've asked, help me understand standard cost. So if I'm in the middle of implementing a new module, or I'm reconciling something, I'm reconciling my inventory value, and I want to understand what is driving these business rules, I simply ask, and it's going to give me some information and some references for me to keep going down that path. Remember, this is in my Business Central Copilot, my chat there. What else did I ask for here? Explain field direct posting. So let's just ask that. Explain field direct posting. Now, this is going to go gather the information and plop it in here for me. If I don't ask an intuitive enough question, it's going to say I couldn't find it specifically because it didn't know exactly what I meant for direct posting. There's many different areas, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So is it going to give you everything you want? No, but you have to learn how to interact, or what everybody calls prompt, with the Copilot to get the information you need. So that's one way. Pretty cool. Let me know if you like that. It does save me a little bit of time. I love that. Finally, a practical use case. I absolutely love it. Here's another case. So I've posted my journal entry, and like the knucklehead I am, I posted it too quickly and I posted it backwards. My debits and credits were swapped. Boy, I bet nobody in the chat has ever done that. So now I want to reverse it. Now, instead of me going out to Google, looking at 13 different articles, trying to figure out which one is right, my current version, I could just simply ask Copilot, how do I reverse a journal entry? So let's just try it. Let's put it to the test. How do I reverse a journal entry? And what I'm going to get, hopefully, fingers crossed, is information step by step on how to do this. While that's running, I'm going to jump over here and say, how do I set up a new payment term? Because we don't do this often. So it's not in the forefront of our mind. It's in the forefront of Copilot. So right here, to reverse a journal entry, choose the light bulb and the journal entries window, select the entry that you want on the reverse, step-by-step information for us there. Folks in the chat, what do you think about that? Pretty cool. Nice little tip in how we can use Copilot. One of the other ones I love, if you've come to my life hack session, you've probably learned this already, but is there a keyboard shortcut for, what do we call that thing? Tell me. So instead of me going up and hitting the magnifying glass every time, I'm going to be told by Copilot, sure, there's a keyboard shortcut for Alt Q. So anytime I hit Alt Q, it's going to pop up to tell me. So not only can I find records and can I find pages and can I find dollar amounts, but I can also be a better version of me by learning new tips, learning how to use new functionality. Now that's the sidebar, but where else can we use Copilot in Business Central? Now, this is where I think it gets a little fun. Right within each particular window, you probably are aware that every field you can click on and be given a brief sentence or two at most about what this field is. But now in each of those, you can click on the Ask Copilot button and be taken. It creates the prompt for us, team, and puts it into the sidebar chat and goes and gets that information. So we're staying within Business Central. We're not being distracted and going out to the doc site because that takes us out there. And then I know you're going to TikTok or Facebook. Maybe not. Your boss is probably watching, but this is keeping us right in there so that we can stay focused on what we're doing. I love this. I use this daily. I definitely do. There's so many fields in Business Central, it's impossible to keep up. So we've talked about the Windows sidebar, and not to confuse that with the Business Central Copilot sidebar. That's the conversational chat. We explored the in-Windows Copilot to mimic the sidebar prompts. And now we're going to get into the Copilot functionality that's in the product with specific functionality. So if you take a step back, Copilot is this big, robust, can do a lot of stuff tool. And we start to hone in a little bit and get a tiny bit more focused. And we have Copilot for Business Central. And that's pretty broad within Business Central as well. And now we're going to get a little bit even more focused and look at actual functionality in the system and how we can take advantage of Business Central here. Now, one of the very first Copilot functionality that came out was the marketing text generator. And this is great for folks who publish items for sale on things like Shopify, or maybe your item master records are used to populate information for your Amazon sales or your own website, or you're going to pull information for actual campaigns. And what's happening is Copilot works in the background. We're going to come into our items. Copilot works in the background and does that fancy schmancy stuff that we've learned from from ChatGPT. That's what ChatGPT, what its initial fame came from, because everybody wanted to help cut back on the time it took to write stuff, whether it's write a blog, write a paragraph, so embedded in the product. Here I have my Athens desk, and I'm just going to do draft with Copilot. Now, this is going to create a heading and a paragraph of marketing text for us. I'm not going to read this. Let me zoom in a little bit using my Control+ on my mouse. Here it is. Here's my elevate your workspace, etc. Now, I can regenerate this. I don't like this. I can give it another shot. I could change my tone. I want to make this a little more upbeat maybe, or formal, depending on where I'm sending this off to. I can make those changes. I can change my format if I want it to be brief. Let's just do a brief. See, that was a whole paragraph. Maybe we want something a little bit more bullety like that. Let's go back and regenerate. But also, we could take this one step further and say, let's change the emphasis. Let's make this with a power. So transform your office into a hub of productivity. Let's switch it to power and see what our first one says. Discover the perfect blend of sophistication and functionality. So you get the sense that Copilot is putting these kind of tweaks into the outcome of this marketing text. And from here, what maybe you didn't notice is some other cool things. We can format this. We can even see the iterations of our Copilot inquiries, so we can compare them and pick, pick which one we want to keep. So I'm going to keep this one. And now that is my marketing text in here. I can edit this manually, or I can redraft it again. That's pretty cool. I know initially there was a lot of tongue-in-cheek moments with this, but let me just be honest. I've worked with businesses who integrate this to sales venues, whether it's eBay and Amazon and other places, or Shopify for marketplace storefronts. And this is fantastic. And let me just tell you, those 2-3 seconds, that would have taken someone easily several minutes or longer to get that starting point of a rough draft. In fact, I've heard somebody say from a marketing team, the hardest part is changing it from a blank piece of text to something, going from nothing to something. So there it is. One of the great functions, marketing. Now, bank reconciliation. This came out last year, fall of last year. I've used this a few times. I'm trying to move this forward at my customers. I think this is a big time saver. And as we evolve in our journey with Copilot, this is going to be more and more impactful. And that telemetry data that Microsoft is going to use is going to be powerful. So all we're doing is we have our transactions in our system and a download from our bank. We're connecting it. We're connecting it to our system. Let's go ahead and do this. We're importing it in. We're dragging it in this case. And what it does now, we can reconcile our bank and we'll have auto match. Now you probably aware of auto match already, but then this is one step further. This goes beyond auto matches. So you have auto match results and Copilot match results. So let's take a peek at that. So we've auto match 2 of 8, but Copilot match 4 of 8. And there they are down below. We can keep those. We can see exactly what the proposal is to apply it to these documents, etc. Now, this is using the true AI in the background to make this connection for us. I absolutely love this. I would encourage you to give it a shot. This is taking it one step further. Are you going to be click, done? I don't think so. Let's be honest, because no different. I think of Copilot like a colleague. Depending on the tasks that I'm asking of it to do, depends on the amount of validation that I'm putting behind that. And based on their experience, I'm also applying that validation to that as well. So in this case, I would definitely review it. And I'm probably going to be left with a few things at the end for me to do manually, but still save me all that time on the front. Another area where Copilot can make you a better version of you by saving you time that is embedded in the product is creating the product information faster. So we can suggest variants, unit of measurement, substitutions, and dimensions for items using Copilot. So this is in the item card. We're going to go into variants. Let's suggest it. And very easily, all it's going to do is use the engine in the background to compare and contrast and make some decisions and make this recommendation that these are the variants that you may want to use. This I've seen used in real time, in real world cases. Very great starting point. Is it perfect? Again, I would say no, but neither am I when I enter this in manually. So keep that in mind. Another really cool area here, and I don't see folks that use this enough. Let me know in the chat. Do you reuse number series year over year, or do you create new ones? This is a great way to using Copilot to automatically create your number series. So you just simply ask Copilot in number series. So we're just going to go in the number series. Let's do this. Let's do it. Let's try it. Let's see if we can break stuff. Let's go in the number series. And we're going to create, put my screen, there we go, create, that's generate. And we'll say, what am I asking on the slide here? Let's cheat, create number series for the new year. Create number series for the new year. And we'll generate. Now, what that's going to do, if I did that right, is it's going to go out, it's going to look at all my modules that I'm using, and it's going to create a proposed code, number series code with the description and the number series range with an effective date for the new year. In this case, I think my work date is set to 24, so I should see 2025. And naturally, these are not hard commits to our system. These are commits. These are proposed commits, so we can edit them is the point of that. That's number series. Hopefully, let's see if this takes just 1 or 2 more seconds while I quickly check the chat. How we doing over here, chat? Was that an info link added? Please add to chat. Yes, all the slides will have info links on them as well. I'll try to add them at the end of our session here as well. So that's taking a little bit longer than I wanted, but that's okay. We will move on to sales suggest lines. Now, here's another really great area. I think this is a glimpse into the future. I really do. Sales suggest lines, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. You can simply type in what you want in the suggest lines. We'll talk about that. So let's do this. Or you can, now that's still going. We'll come over and we'll go into a sales invoice. I'm going to tuck away the Copilot sidebar, and I'm going to come into my sales invoice. Now here I have I think this is a blank sales invoice. Let's turn off my fact box for a moment and come down here. Perfect. So I can either look up my items here. Maybe my customer emailed me and I want to add that way. So I can just go up here to Copilot and say, suggest lines. And I'm going to say, I want three desks and 2 chairs that are under $500. And let's generate. So rather than me going and looking and filtering, et cetera, so here's my 3 desks. This is my proposal. Again, it's not throwing it into my sales invoice and I don't get to do anything with it. And I can either discard this and start over, or I can insert, and I can just insert this in there. Notice that was just natural language. I might even be on a speakerphone with a client when they're saying these kind of things, and just type it in there for easy. And notice what it did is it just put it in each line. I didn't have to tab, pick the number, tab, pieces, tab, tax. I didn't have to do all that. It just put it in and said, hey, we're ready for the next one. So I'm going to get rid of these for just a second because I want to show you something else here. And that is that we can also, this other one here, suggest lines from a file. Actually, before we do that, let me go back to suggest lines because I forgot this. No. I was right. Let's go back and do suggest lines from the file. So I'm just going to pick a file. So in this case, I have a sales file. Maybe my customer emailed me a file, or perhaps I have an export from a sales venue for this customer that you may have in the past had to build an integration for. So wink, wink on that. I think there's definitely room here for us to debate whether or not we need to build custom integrations for things like this now. So what this did is it looked at my simple file and it said, hey, it looks like these are the inventory items that you want and the quantities. And I can choose, I could change my matching type. I can also view the confidence of this. I like this a lot because if it's a true match, we can get a high confidence, or if there's some fuzzy match going on, we can see that lower confidence where maybe I need to put a little bit more of my attention to. But just like that, I've imported this into my system. Now let's go back and do this a different way, right from suggest lines. And I'm just going to attach that file rather than using the import. And here's where we get to see that match happen. So here's my column mapping. So I can change, like if Copilot didn't map the files properly or map the file to our system properly, I can change that on the fly. So here's where I kind of think, do we need these custom integrations for bringing sales information in on a big scale, perhaps on a small scale? Maybe not. So I think this is pretty cool. All we have to do is generate and insert these into our document. And there we go. Boom. Beautiful. Thank you, Copilot, for the win. Next up on our list. Oh, don't forget, you can also bring in, use Copilot to bring in sales lines from other documents, from other posted invoices, from this customer's last posted invoice. If you just want to cheat and say they're reordering almost exactly the same as they did last time, boom, real easy to do. And that's clicking on this icon here on the prompt guide, or you could just simply type copy from the latest posted invoice in there and it will do it for you. You're welcome. Next up on the list is e-document matching. So we've got purchase orders in our system and we get a file from our vendor, electronic file, and we want to match those up. And now we're doing it manually, but we can use Copilot to go ahead and do that. I've got a few links here for you. Again, I'll share this in the chat for you to look at this video on e-document matching, but very, very cool. We're assuming we get the file already. We're going to choose e-document matching. Look, we've got auto matched, Copilot match gets us even further closer to the finish line. And it's a beautiful world when we're able to use that technology. Basically, this is real simple. The existing process just gets interrupted with Copilot in the middle, same as bank rec, which I think is pretty cool. You want to be sure to check that out. Now, most certainly my favorite, I think, to date. Well, it's debatable because there's so many new cool things coming out, more to come in this session. So stay tuned. There's analyzing lists. So we have our lists in Business Central. And what I mean by lists are, lists, the stuff that we look at all the time. This is a list. Maybe we want to look at customer ledger entries. Let's do that. Let's see. Let's go into the customer. Oops, I'm not in customers. That's why. Let's go into customers, and then we'll look at customer ledger entries. So here in customer ledger entries, this is a pretty significant list. I'll remove my filter here too. This is all of our customer ledger entries. This is something we can export to Excel, and we can do some pivoting in Excel to get some information, ad hoc analysis, which I know we all love to do. And we kind of assume it has to go to Excel. I'm like that a lot, trying to break that habit because it doesn't need to go to Excel. And that's what Analyze Lists is all about. And we simply can use natural language to get some of these results. Now, what this really is saying is this list is our typical Business Central list, and we can switch this to go over into analysis mode. And here we can build these lists. We can build new lists. We can try to get, let's see, I want a list that gives me all ledger entries for customers. And I'm already spacing out because there's fields in here. Now I could do this, but it's going to require some focus. But if I just simply ask Copilot instead with natural language. So I'm just going to say, show amount remaining, pivot this by due date year, due date month, and group by customer number. You could argue that's not absolute natural language, and I don't disagree, but this is the architecture of this Copilot analysis build. Show me the remaining amount, pivot by due date year, due date month, and group by customer numbers. What is this showing? This is going to show our amount outstanding, our accounts receivable, if you will, not aged, but our accounts receivable. So let's take a look at this new Analyze List. Let's go, Copilot. Somebody kick the wheel. Let's go. No whammies. Don't let me down. How's everybody doing in the chat? We still doing okay over there? Good. All right, here we go. So here is our list. Remaining amount by due date. So I've got my 2023 and 2024, and I can expand this out. I can change my order here to go out ascending, and I'm going to expand this out and see what I'm going to keep this, by the way, because that looks pretty good. But we can go down one level here more and see, okay, there's the customer name, and here's some invoice information. I absolutely love that. That saved me tons of time. I didn't have to do it. Let's add some global dimensions in there. Let's do another one. So let's add global dimensions in there, create a new analysis. This one is saying same thing, but pivot by global dimension 1 and global dimension 2, and then group things. Also, give me the ability to drill down to the transaction level, Copilot. Would you please let me do that? We'll see if it cooperates. But this is the great thing here. Remember, we're just starting with Copilot in Business Central, and this technology is evolving at an incredible rate. And the faster we adopt to it, the faster it will evolve. So here, look, now here's my 2024. There's my global dimension 1 and my global dimension values. So just like that, I can see all the things I need to see right here in this list without me having to create this manually. And most certainly, I could still come in and refine and redefine this without using Copilot. But look at how far down the path to success this got me. As I mentioned, so that is our complete in the product look of Copilot. And so what do you think? Are those ways that you could, be a better version of you, maybe save some time, maybe do some a harder look in the data? As we evolve in this world, Copilot's going to be creeping successfully into every nook and cranny of what we do, and that includes into our ERP. So my challenge to you is to get acclimated to it, start using it every day, and be a better version of you. Now, we're not done. Got a couple other things we want to talk about before we get to Q&A. So one of the things in our agenda we talked about was Copilot for Business Central inside Business Central, which we just covered several key areas, several cool areas there, including the conversational chat and the embedded in the product functionality. Now, where we can go from there is how do we use Copilot outside of Business Central, but still improve, still be a better version of ourselves with our day-to-days while using our ERP. And so let's look at some of these. Now here in the bottom, we've got Teams, Outlook, and Excel. Now there's much more coming from Copilot for Business, Copilot for Finance with Teams. Now it's called Copilot for Finance, and we talk about this for Excel, Outlook, and Teams, but Business Central in the background is what we're talking about. Copilot for Finance is a new product in the M365 suite. It's available for finance and operations. It's even available for products that aren't Microsoft, I think. But most importantly, it works with Business Central. So we've got Copilot for Finance currently that has an Excel add-in and an Outlook add-in. And we'll talk about each of those briefly here. I've got some reference links for you. Don't worry on how to use these and what cool functionalities yet to come. But here, if we look at this particular setup in Outlook, and I'll try to do this real quickly if my computer will cooperate briefly. But I'm just going to open up Outlook and let's see, slide this over here so you can see. So here is my Outlook, and here I've got Copilot for Finance. I've got this simple email here that says, I've received this invoice, I'm going to dispute it. Now, Copilot for Finance in Outlook connected to Business Central gives us the ability to add contacts on the fly. It also, I think the most significant part about it is it gives us the ability to manage accounts receivable. So here's a dispute inquiry because we're repairing the desk that we sent off. I could just simply come into that customer right from within Outlook. I don't have to leave and get distracted. I can see some statistics, what their aging looks like. I can even come down and see real documents for this customer from Business Central, y'all, in Outlook using Copilot for Finance. And I can even update the status here, say it's disputed, and give it a promise to pay date. And that will update the record back in Business Central. Isn't that amazing? I absolutely love that. And remember, don't geek out like I am too much. This is just the start. We're just starting the tip of the iceberg on how Copilot for Finance connected to Business Central is going to help us down the road. Next up on that list was Excel. Now, if you're like me, you love Excel. And boy, oh boy, anytime I get into Excel, I get into trouble. But hey, that's just the nature of the beast. But we could do some fancy things. Now, this particular add-in, let's see, do I have it open? If I did my job here, I have it open. Now, this guy, remember, how much did I say this was? If we have Business Central, Copilot in Business Central is included, and Copilot for Finance is free, at least today, and it's in preview mode, and I'm enjoying it in a major way. I absolutely love this. So this is the Excel add-in for Copilot for Finance for Business Central. The links are in the slide deck, don't worry, so you can get it turned on. All this is a download from my bank, and this is a download from Business Central. I don't need to actually authorize back into Business Central. I can just use the edit, open in Excel and create this. All I'm going to do now is I have my bank statement and my Business Central transactions, and I'm going to compare I'm going to reconcile. I'm going to reconcile these two, and I'm going to, there we go. I'm going to reconcile this data. I have to tell it which two, where's the data at? I got some data on worksheet 1 in this table, data on worksheet 2 in this data in this table. And now I'm just going to hit next. And what this is going to do is going to give us the ability to say, okay, which fields are we going to compare to? Do we need to add new fields? What is our way of measuring this? And then the AI takes over. Not only is it going to do the reconciliation for us, but it is going to create this beautiful report for us and give us our entire reconciliation statement with a summary here for us as well that we can include in an email that we send off to our controller. We can save this as a PDF. Here's my transactions from BC. Here's my bank. Here's the reconciliation. Here's how much I'm out. And away we go. That's Copilot for Finance. Don't sleep on that team. It's really, really great. You're going to love it. Those are agents. I would call those agents. Those are custom functionality specific Copilots. We're coming up on our time question. Don't worry, I'll leave time for questions. But those are Microsoft agents. That's Microsoft Finance. I don't know if they would call it an agent or not, but that's the idea of agent, is where you take a very particular functionality and you give it parameters and you define what it needs to look like and you build it for that. With Copilot Studio, you can do that as well, not just for Business Central, but in your entire organization on the graph. So using data on SharePoint to compare to this or whatever, it's quite complex. what you can do, but not complex on how you do it. That's Copilot Studio. If you've heard of virtual agents before, that would be the same thing. So we've come back to the term agent, but now we're calling them Copilot agents. Now, this agent, sales order agent, is a Microsoft agent, another agent from Microsoft, but this is in Business Central. And this isn't released yet. I think it's going to come out early next year, or actually, I think I saw December. I think it's right around the corner. And the idea behind this is that we can create this agent that says, hey, when we get an email in this inbox from a customer that we recognize, can we create the order? Can we alert people that there's stock we need to buy or something we need to build? Can we fulfill it right away? Can we ship it right away? And actually let the Copilot do the work of fulfilling and processing the order, which is absolutely magnificent. All you do is you tell it which mailbox you connect to it. Pretty simple. You activate it. And then basically you get a timeline view of monitoring that inbox. See on the right-hand side there, these are the activities in that inbox. Maybe we didn't do anything with this email. Maybe we did something with that email, but you can review each one. You can respond to the emails using this agent right from within Business Central. So earlier, Copilot for Finance, we were looking at ways we could not leave Outlook. Now we're looking at ways we can handle emails without leaving Business Central. Absolutely amazing. And this is going to handle those orders for us. We can create the message right from within Business Central, send it off, including attaching the PDF if it's a quote or what have you. Away you go. That's building, that's the Microsoft agent. That isn't a custom one that you would build. That's going to come out next month, but you can build your own using Copilot Studio as well. Well, folks, that's the end of our time for our presentation. We'll open up the Q&A here. Please, if you've asked a question before, please ask it again so that I don't overlook that question as I scroll up and down in the chat. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And so let's hear it. What kind of questions we got? Here's the bank reconciliation link. What other links do we look for? Currently, I only see Copilot to suggest item substitutions. It's advertised as great product information for variance, dimensions, UM, and substitutions, but I only have substitutions in the latest environment. So my recommendation, I think some of it may have been pulled back and delayed to the December release. So you may want to check that. That may be the case there because I was not able to get variance in mine until I deployed a new environment. Then I was able to get variance. So I think there was a couple little stumps along the way, and look for either a brand new release in an environment with the latest deployment, or check December, back for December. All right, I don't see any questions. I'm trying to see here. Let's see. Hopefully everybody found that helpful. Any questions before we close? Again, thank you all very much. I hope that was helpful. I see Shirley saying, I built an agent. Can you edit them with updated information? Example, I made one that had customer benefits and one to update. Have you been able to do this? I have not myself, but I would imagine you'd be able to update them most certainly, if not use them as a starting point. So for a new one. Great question. Great job on trying to create your own agent as well. That's pretty awesome. Good job.